In the fog-laden streets of Victorian London, a shadow moves silently, unseen, yet leaving a trail of terror in its wake. The year was 1888, and the East End was a labyrinth of narrow alleyways, gaslit roads, and tenement houses teeming with the working poor. It was in this dark heart of Whitechapel that a name would emerge, whispered in fear and fascination alike: Jack the Ripper. Nobody knew who he was, and nobody could catch him. Yet his presence was felt in every terrified glance and every hurried step in the dead of night. The police were confounded. The newspapers sensationalized every grisly detail, and the people of London lived in a constant state of dread. Jack the Ripper's first known victim was Mary Ann Nichols, a woman of 39 whose life had been marked by hardship and poverty. She was discovered on the morning of August 31st, her body lying in Buck's Row, mutilated in a way that shocked even the most hardened officers. The precision of the wound suggested knowledge, perhaps surgical skill, but no motive was clear beyond cruelty itself. Rumors spread quickly. People speculated that the killer was a doctor, a butcher, perhaps even a member of the upper class hiding in plain sight. The police interviews yielded nothing, and as night fell over Whitechapel once more, the streets felt lonelier, quieter, yet charged with an electric, unspoken fear. Just a week later, Annie Chapman became the Ripper's second known victim. Found near a doorway in Hanbury Street, she had suffered a fate similar to Mary Ann Nichols. Her body had been mutilated with a precision that left investigators stunned. But what struck the public most was the sheer brutality, the audacity of committing such a crime in a crowded, bustling neighborhood. Londoners began to fear the dark corners of their city in ways they never had before. People whispered in pubs, in markets, and on street corners. They locked their doors and peered through curtains at shadows, wondering if the figure they glimpsed was Jack the Ripper himself. By the time the autumn of 1888 descended, a sense of hysteria had gripped the city. Letters began to arrive at the police station and newspapers claiming to be from the Ripper. The most infamous of these would later be known as the Dear Boss letter, taunting the authorities and signing off with the name Jack the Ripper. Whether genuine or a hoax, the letter struck fear into London, giving a name to a faceless terror. The name was repeated endlessly, shouted in the streets, and printed in newspapers that fed on the morbid fascination of the public. The Ripper's legend was beginning to take shape, a shadow that seemed larger than life itself. Elizabeth Stride and Catherine Eddowes were killed on the same night, September 30th, in what became known as the double event. Elizabeth Stride was discovered first, in Dutfield's yard, her life taken swiftly, though without the extensive mutilation seen in previous victims. Catherine Eddowes, found in Mitre Square, suffered injuries so brutal and calculated that it stunned even seasoned detectives. The audacity of killing two women in one night terrified the city, yet the Ripper seemed to vanish afterward, leaving nothing but questions and a trail of horror. The police, despite their best efforts, had no leads, no clues that could pierce the veil of anonymity surrounding the killer. The terror of Jack the Ripper was not only in his acts, but in his ability to vanish. Witnesses reported seeing fleeting glimpses of figures moving in shadows, but none could provide a description that led to capture. Rumors flourished. Some claimed he was a foreigner, others a doctor. Some whispered even darker theories about royalty or aristocrats hiding behind their wealth and influence. Every new report, every new letter, fanned the flames of fear and curiosity. Yet the streets of Whitechapel remained alive, thrumming with the life of the city, oblivious to the horror lurking in its alleys. Mary Jane Kelly, the Ripper's final known victim, was found on November 9th. Her murder was unlike the others, carried out in the intimate confines of her own room. The extent of the mutilation was beyond anything previously seen, a grotesque display that cemented the Ripper's place in history as a figure of unimaginable cruelty. This killing, however, also signaled the end of the Ripper's known spree. Whether he died, left London, or simply disappeared into the shadows, he was never caught. The mystery endured, haunting the city and capturing the imagination of the world. The investigations, though thorough, were hampered by the limitations of the time. Forensic science was rudimentary. Fingerprinting was in its infancy. Police relied on eyewitness accounts, physical evidence that could be seen with the naked eye, and intuition. They questioned hundreds of suspects, followed leads that often turned cold, and combed the streets for clues that seemed perpetually out of reach. The public demanded action. The press demanded action. Yet Jack the Ripper remained elusive, a ghost in the fog, striking fear into the hearts of all who dared to walk alone after dark. As years passed, the fascination with Jack the Ripper only grew. Books were written, newspapers recounted the murders, and the story of a shadowy figure preying on women in the East End became legend. The Ripper came to symbolize not only the darkness of criminal genius, but also the vulnerability of society, the fragility of human life, and the capacity for evil to hide in plain sight. Scholars, detectives, and enthusiasts have debated endlessly over his identity. Suspects have ranged from well-known figures of the era to obscure residents of Whitechapel. Each theory, each hypothesis, adds layers to the mythos of the Ripper, but the truth remains obscured, hidden behind time and secrecy. Even today, Jack the Ripper fascinates. His crimes are a window into the fears, the inequalities, and the mysteries of Victorian London. They remind us that evil can walk among us unnoticed, that a shadow can slip through the cracks of civilization, and that some questions, no matter how desperately we seek answers, may never be resolved. The Ripper's story is told and retold in books, films, and lectures, yet each retelling cannot strip away the sense of dread that accompanied those nights in Whitechapel. The fog rolls through the streets, the lamps flicker, and for a moment, one can almost imagine a figure moving silently between the buildings, unseen, leaving only fear in his wake. The legend of Jack the Ripper is not just about murder. It is about a city under pressure, about the plight of the poor, about the fascination with the macabre that humans have carried through centuries. It is about how one person, one shadow, can change the way an entire community perceives the world around them. Whitechapel became synonymous with terror, yet it also became a symbol of resilience. Life continued despite fear. Markets operated, homes were lived in, and London, in all its grandeur and squalor, marched forward. The Ripper may have claimed lives, but he could not extinguish the spirit of a city. And so, Jack the Ripper remains an enigma. He is a story whispered on misty nights, a tale that captivates imagination, a mystery that has endured through generations. His shadow lingers in history, in the foggy streets of East London, in the collective memory of a world forever haunted by a figure who took what he wanted and vanished. He is the embodiment of darkness, of the unknown, of terror personified. Yet his story is also a mirror, reflecting society's fears, curiosities, and the eternal question of whether evil is born or made, whether it hides in shadows or walks in plain sight. As the gas lamps flicker and the fog rolls through Whitechapel, one can almost hear the echoes of footsteps, the soft, deliberate pace of someone moving unseen, leaving a city to wonder, to fear, and to remember. The story of Jack the Ripper is more than a tale of murder. It is a story of mystery, of human fascination with the unknown, and of the darkness that can exist within us all. The Ripper may never have been caught, but his legacy endures, a chilling reminder of a time when fear walked hand in hand with curiosity, and when the shadows of London hid secrets that may never be fully revealed. Even as modern streets stretch where the alleys once wound, and neon lights replace gas lamps, the story persists. Tourists walk where his victims fell, historians debate, and writers spin tales inspired by a figure whose identity may forever remain a mystery. Jack the Ripper, the shadow in the fog, continues to haunt not just Whitechapel, but the imagination itself, a reminder that some mysteries are eternal, and that some stories, no matter how dark, refuse to fade. And so, the story ends not with resolution, but with reflection. We remember the victims, we ponder the unknown, and we consider the fragility of life and the lurking presence of danger where least expected. Jack the Ripper's name is a warning, a legend, and a testament to the power of fear and fascination intertwined. In the end, perhaps that is why the story endures, not because the mystery was solved, but because the questions remain, and because every foggy night can awaken the imagination, reminding us that shadows are never truly gone, and that some darkness remains, waiting to be remembered.